Alright, let's make a correlation matrix and we can kind of see how different things are related. In this case, I just have some baseball data from 2015, players who played quite a bit, and we can see, at least from some base rate statistics and things, what kind of drives, say, home runs and stolen bases, or if home run hitters are correlated to people who hit a lot of singles and stuff like that. And we can talk about that once we get it built. So I'm going to quickly freeze the top row here. So view, freeze panes, freeze top row. That way when I go down to the bottom, control down, there we go. I can go down here and build. So I'm just going to take all the numeric names here and I'm going to copy them. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom and I'm going to paste them just so I can work from them down here. And then I'm going to actually go down just catty corner from this home run. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste special. And I'm going to transpose and hit OK, and that way I have it running both directions. And that's where I'm going to build my correlation matrix. So it's going to fit in this square. Okay, so the first thing here is home runs and home runs. So I'm just going to build a correlation for home runs and home runs equals correl. And that's going to go from C2, and I'm going to lock that, to C, what is that, 142, and I'm going to also lock that. Okay, and then I'm going to hit comma and just do it again, C2, this time without locking, C142. Okay, and you should get a 1. You correlate anything to itself, you'll get a 1. And then as I drag this over, it'll correlate, since I locked one of those, it'll correlate column C. As I drag it over now, it'll call C and D, C and E, C and F, etc. as I go over. So then if I drag this down, I can just make sure I set it up so that in this case we locked home runs, and the next one we're going to lock stolen bases, then we're going to lock walk rate, then we're going to lock strikeout rate, etc. So instead of C this time, I want to use D, which is where stolen bases are. C, D. D, stolen bases, so I'm just going to change my C's to D's. Alright, and then I'm going to change this range back to C2 to C142. So since these are all going to correlate, as I change them, all of these are going to correlate to home runs. I just want that to always be C2 to C142. But you don't want to lock it because you're going to want to drag them all over at the end. So C2 to C142. So now I'm going to change my C's to E's, and the fun begins. C2 to C142. Now I don't want E's, I want F. And again, C2 to C142, and then G. This will be nice because at the end we'll just be able to drag over and do a bunch of correlations in one batch. H is speed. C142. Alright, then we're going to do I. C2 to C142. And J. And so anytime you have a project you're not entirely sure what things are going to be related, this can be a good starting point for you to kind of get a grasp over where the strongest relationships are for what you're looking at, as we'll see here in a second. So even if you don't know very much about baseball, you'll be able to pick some things out here. So there we go. And finally M. And some of them will make sense pretty quickly. C2 to C142. Alright, so once we set each of these up, I just drag over, boop, and you'll see that we did it right because there will be a 1 running diagonally right through the middle of your matrix, because this is where speed meets speed, it'll be 1. Ground ball rate meets ground ball rate. Okay. And then I like to do this. I like to do conditional formatting so I can easily see what things are positively or negatively correlated. So if you just highlight the whole set, conditional formatting, highlight cells rule greater than. Anything greater than 0 is going to be a positive correlation, so I'm going to mark it out as green. And then I'm going to do it again, conditional formatting, highlight cells rule less than. Anything less than 0 is going to be red. So now we can see all the positive and negative correlations. And so you can kind of read this how you want. We can mark this out to make it a little bit more self-contained. Oh, and if you don't want the ones to be green, since they're kind of the ones, you can also do things like conditional formatting, highlight cells rules, equal to, anything equal to 1. You can do a custom format. And fill and no color. Right? So we can actually put them as a no fill if you want to separate them out, since they're a little bit different. But anyway, now I can see. So home runs, big power hitters, we can start seeing, well, what things are correlated with home runs. And so we can see like positive correlations are things like walks and strikeouts. So people hit home runs tend to hit also walk more often and strike out more often. These aren't terribly strong correlations, but they're there, as well as fly ball percentage, so they're going to hit the ball in the air more often than other people, which makes perfect sense, because you kind of have to hit it in the air to hit home run, right? So you can kind of walk through any of the things. So then we can go to stolen bases, and we can say, people who steal a lot of bases don't tend to hit as many home runs. They also don't actually walk as much or strike out as much, and these are really low correlations. Swing percentage doesn't seem to be related to either of those things, but you're going to see really strong correlations, right, between stolen bases and speed. So the faster the player is, the more likely they are to steal bases, which makes really good sense. So you can see some of these really strong correlations, 0.82, 0.79. So people who steal bases also get caught stealing a lot and hit a lot of first or singles relative to home run hitters who don't hit as many singles and things like that. So we can, kind of run through here and see really strong correlations, okay? We can see things that don't really matter. So like there's a really low correlation. Are there any really strong negative correlations? So that's a really strong negative correlation. So people who have a high fly ball rate have a low, have a low, so as fly ball percentage goes up, ground balls go down, which makes sense because if you do one, you can't do the other. So they kind of have to be related that way. So anyway, this is really helpful sometimes if you don't know where to start to kind of try and figure out what things are most strongly related. And you can say, actually, people who swing a lot don't walk as often, and that makes good sense and things like that. So anyway, that's how you build a correlation matrix, and hopefully that'll help you if you're doing like a report or something. See you next time.